Imagine this. You're in a store, torn between two products. You pick one, feeling confident it's the logical choice. But what if that decision wasn't really yours? What if unseen psychological forces had already steered you towards it? Have you ever wondered why your choices sometimes feel a bit off? It's because there's something influencing you without your conscious awareness. In this video, we'll uncover the fascinating science behind how your unconscious mind shapes your decisions, and, more importantly, how you can recognize and reclaim control over them. Stay tuned to discover what's really happening behind the scenes of your everyday choices. The invisible hands behind your choices. You think you made deliberate choices, but neuroscientists have shown your brain often decides before you realize it. In the 1980s, researchers conducted an experiment where people chose when to move their wrist whilst watching a clock. Brain scans revealed activity started 7 seconds before participants consciously decided to act. This readiness potential suggests that your unconscious mind initiates decisions, leaving your conscious thinking to justify them afterwards. This same mechanism is tied to the basal ganglia, which handles routine choices automatically, freeing your conscious mind for more complex tasks. It's why you can drive home whilst daydreaming. Your unconscious takes over familiar routines, but also makes you vulnerable to outside influence without realizing it. This subtle delay is exactly what savvy marketers count on. By exploiting this delay between unconscious decision and conscious awareness, limited time offers trigger a dopamine response that pushes you into buy before thinking rationally. Packaging design plays a surprisingly powerful role. Frito-Lay found matte bags with potato images performed better than shiny ones, which can feel flashy and cheap, like a loud sales pitch. Matte bags, on the other hand, act like a silent whisper of quality. Apple, too, focuses on how products improve lives rather than technical specs because emotional connections bypass rational evaluation. Retail stores strategically place high-margin items at eye level, knowing you'll grab them automatically. Online retailers use countdown timers to create false urgency. These tactics work because they target the unconscious decision-making process that drives most consumer behavior. Brain imaging studies even show certain ads that activate reward centers before participants consciously report liking them. So, how much of your decision-making is truly conscious? Neuroeconomics research suggests only about 5% of your cognitive activity happens at conscious level. Your brain processes 11 million bits of information per second, but your conscious mind handles only about 50 bits. The rest happens in background systems that have evolved to keep you safe and efficient, not to deliberate carefully. This automatic processing creates predictable biases in your thinking. When you walk into a store and reach for that familiar brand, when you assume the expensive wine tastes better, or when you trust someone who resembles people you like, these aren't deliberate choices. They're the results of unconscious systems making snap judgments that feel like conscious decisions. When your brain tricks itself, your brain constantly plays tricks on you without your knowledge. Take confirmation bias, for example. If you believe left-handed people are more creative, you'll notice creative left-handers everywhere whilst ignoring creative right-handers. This selective perception shapes how you interpret everything around you. Researchers demonstrated this by showing ambiguous images to people with different expectations. Those told they'll see animals spotted animal shapes first, whilst others focus on objects. the same visual input produce completely different perceptions based on pre-existing beliefs, which can have real-world consequences. So, for instance, people often stick with failing investments or relationships, ignoring warning signs, whilst fixating on evidence that supports their initial assumptions. But it doesn't stop at what we see. Numbers and initial impressions also hijack our judgment. The anchoring effect is a prime example. In real estate experiments, agents shown higher listing prices estimated property values 20 to 40% higher than those shown lower anchors. Even when the starting prices were randomly generated, think of the initial price as a magnetic pull. It skews all subsequent evaluations. A $50 wine seems reasonable after seeing a $500 bottle first. Car dealers exploit this by showing inflated sticker prices before revealing discounts, making the final price feel like a bargain. Your brain also misjudges probabilities based on what easily comes to mind. After seeing a shark attack headline, you might overestimate swimming risks, even though lightning strikes kill more people annually. The emotional punch of a shark attack story sticks with you, making rare events feel common. News coverage of plane crashes creates more fear than car accidents, despite driving being, statistically speaking, far more dangerous. Familiarity often overrides logic in decision-making. A Stanford study found that people consistently chose worst-performing options simply because they recognized the brand name. Researchers theorize this stems from evolutionary advantages. Familiar food sources pose less risk than unknown ones. Today, this translates to sticking with inefficient routines or brands even when better alternatives exist. These mental shortcuts served survival functions. Early humans needed to make quick judgments about potential threats without exhaustive analysis. A false positive kept you alive. Better to mistake a stick for a snake than vice versa. In modern environments flooded with information, these same heuristics lead to systematic errors. Your brain prioritizes speed over accuracy because that worked for survival decisions requiring milliseconds, not careful deliberation. This explains why people trust gut feelings even against evidence. Your brain evolved pattern recognition systems that often spots connections where none exists. Seeing faces in clouds helped ancestors detect hidden predators in forests. Those same mechanisms make you see stock market patterns where randomness exists or find meaning in unrelated coincidences. Emotional hijacking of rational thoughts. Your brain emotional systems act like an overzealous amplifier, cranking up impulses and drowning out rational thoughts in milliseconds. fMRI scans reveal that impulsive decisions ignite intense amygdala activity before the prefrontal cortex even has a chance to weigh in. Picture a gambler on a winning streak. Heart racing, adrenaline surging. They double down, only to lose it all moments later. Studies confirm this pattern. Casino players' heart rates spike during wins, leading to riskier bets, whilst day traders, caught in the same emotional whirlwind, chase losses as caution evaporates and when the adrenaline kicks in. Stress skews our perception of randomness, making us see patterns where one exists. After market crashes, for example, stock traders often mistake random price changes for meaningful trends. Researchers illustrated this by showing participants random coin flip sequences. Stressed individuals identified hot streaks 40% more often than calm ones. This illusion drives investors to buy high during perceived upward trends and sell low during temporary dips, compounding losses. Loss aversion becomes exaggerated under emotional stress. Experiments show people refuse favorable 50-50 bets if potential losses feel significant. In one study, participants rejected deals where they could win $150 but lose $100 despite positive expected value. When cortisol levels rose from stress testing, rejection rates jumped another 35%. This explains why panic selling wipes out portfolios during market corrections. The pain of potential losses overwhelms logical, rational analysis of fundamentals. Negative emotions weigh twice as heavily as positive ones in decision making. Brain scans show financial losses activate pain centers more intensely than equivalent gains trigger pleasure. This 2-to-1 negativity bias leads to systematic errors. Job seekers avoid interviews for fear of rejection, and consumers fixate on product flaws whilst undervaluing benefits. Stress amplifies existing biases by exhausting cognitive resources. Decision fatigue studies show glucose depletion in the prefrontal cortex correlates with poorer choices over time. Tired jurors issue harsher rulings, and sleep-deprived doctors overprescribe antibiotics. One experiment found mentally fatigued participants became 28% more hostile in negotiations. This explains why people make impulsive purchases after long shopping trips or accept worse terms during late-night negotiations. Marketers systematically exploit these vulnerabilities. Limited time scarcity triggers FOMO. Insurance ads emphasize worst-case scenarios to stoke fear and activate loss aversion. Car commercials show drivers achieving social status rather than listing features. Emotional appeals outperform facts in car sales. Breaking free from automatic thinking. The good news is you can train yourself to recognize and counter unconscious biases. Professional investors use a simple yet powerful tool called a decision journal. They record every major choice, what they decided, why they decided it, and what factors influence them. Months later, they review these entries to spot patterns in their thinking. You might discover you consistently overvalue recommendations from certain people, or that you make poorer decisions when tired. One hedge fund manager found through his journal that he tended to sell winning stocks too early whilst holding losers too long. A classic loss aversion pattern he hadn't noticed before. By identifying this habit, he adjusted his strategy and improved his performance. Most people struggle to spot their own biases. In studies where participants were told about cognitive biases and then asked to identify them and their own thinking, fewer than 15% could accurately self-diagnose. This blind spot persists even among experts. Research shows doctors, judges, and financial analysts all perform barely better than chance at recognizing their own biased decisions in real time. The decision journal works because it creates objective distance from your choices. It allows you to analyze your own choices without the heat of the moment that's been clouding your judgment. Moving from recording your decisions to rethinking them through time-based perspectives. This creates the necessary space when facing a tough choice. Ask how you'll feel about it, say in 10 minutes' time, or in 10 months, and maybe even 10 years. A car buyer might realize their excitement about leather seats fades quickly, whilst monthly payments linger for years. Researchers found this technique reduces impulsive purchases by around 23% and increases satisfaction with major decisions. Perspective-taking exercises can weaken confirmation bias. Before finalizing an important decision, write down 3 reasons someone might disagree with you. In one study, participants who did this were 40% more likely to fairly consider opposing evidence. Another effective method is the consider the opposite approach. Actively seek information that contradicts your initial view. This helped stock analysis improve their accuracy by 30% over 6 months. So what simple test reveals hidden biases? Try this. Next time you make a snap judgment about someone or something, pause and list 3 alternative explanations for the behavior. If you assume a coworker is lazy for missing a deadline, consider they might be overwhelmed, facing personal issues perhaps, or waiting on information from others. This quick exercise surfaces automatic assumptions you didn't realize you were making. Studies show people who practice this regularly become significantly better at recognizing their own biased thinking patterns. Finally, the pre-mortem technique helps anticipate decision flaws before they happen. Imagine it's 1 year later and your decision failed spectacularly. Write down all possible reasons why. Unlike typical risk analysis that feels abstract, this method triggers your brain's pattern recognition systems to spot real vulnerabilities. A tech startup team using pre-mortems identified 22% more potential product flaws than traditional brainstorming. The key is treating the failure as it already happened. You bypass optimism bias and uncover hidden risks. You're not underestimating these risks, thus making your decisions more resilient. Conclusion: your unconscious mind isn't your enemy. It's like a wild river, powerful and untamed, but capable of being harnessed for incredible energy. The most effective decision makers don't suppress their automatic responses, they learn to understand and guide them. Neuro research confirms that this awareness helps override poor judgments whilst preserving valuable instincts. Paying attention to snap judgments is key. For one day, track every quick decision that you make, what triggered it, how fast it happened, and its impact. You'll find that your unconscious assumptions shape small choices, what you eat, who you trust, even how you interpret events. That awareness alone weakens the hold of hidden biases, clarity sharpens deliberate judgment, and ultimately empowers your transformation. This is Marco Cello. Thank you for watching.